Halito, chim achukma sa yat terra Astigarraga, chatta siyohoke, ata li Rochester, New York. Hola, ¿cómo están? Me llamo Terra Astigarraga. Soy un miembro de la Nación Choctaw de Oklahoma y vivo in Rochester, New York. And hi, how are you? My name is Terra Astigarraga. I'm an enrolled member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, and I live in Rochester, New York. I'm very excited to be here today. This is my first time attending a SOCNAS conference. It won't be my last. And it's been incredible so far. Thank you. So as a Native American married to an Argentinian with 2 teenage daughters interested in pursuing careers in the medical field, and one in the process of applying to college now, it's absolutely amazing how spot on this whole experience has been. So I want to use pictures as a way of introduction. So family first. The top left is my family. So my husband Julio, our Bernese mountain dog named Bear, our 2 daughters, Gabriela and Alexis, and my dad, who's here with me today. The top middle is a picture from 2 years ago when I was able to give the convocation speech at my alma mater, the University of Arizona, at the SBS graduation. So hopefully there's some U of A students or alum here today. If so, bear down. Yeah. Woo! The top right is the Great Seal of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. I'm very proud to be a member of the Choctaw Nation, the 3rd largest tribe in the U.S., and to celebrate and live out the Choctaw spirit of faith, family, and culture. So halito, if there's any other Choctaw folks here today. Yeah. The bottom left is a picture from the Smithsonian exhibit last year. It was entitled Picturing Women Inventors, and it told the story of 18 women inventors across history. And to be included in that list with some kick-ass women like Grace Hopper, Patricia Bath, and Ellen Ochoa was a mind-blowing experience. The bottom middle is a picture from the ACES conference a few years back. I've been involved in ACES for nearly 20 years. I'm an ACES Sequoia Fellow and on their corporate advisory board, and a dedicated champion to the work that they're doing for Indigenous people in STEM. And the bottom right is a picture that I honestly don't even think looks like me. It's from an IBM ad campaign about 5 years ago, and the only time I've ever had a hair and makeup team. So I've been at IBM for 22 years now, very, very proud to work for a company that supports me as a whole person, not just me as a developer. So as a female Native American non-computer science person, working as a developer in one of the industry's kind of largest tech companies, imposter syndrome is something that kind of hit me like a ton of bricks a few months after starting my full-time role. So I was learning by brute force and determination. I was contributing to projects, and I was even giving back for some of the work that I was doing, but I secretly just felt like I was one wrong question away from everyone finding out that I just didn't belong in this industry. I was afraid to fail. I was afraid that my background would one day hold me back. But by this point, I had decided that a path in technology was something I wanted to pursue for my career. So it was then that I decided to go back to school, taking classes at night to pursue my master's in computer science. I was convinced that this would give me the credentials and the permission I needed to succeed in this industry long term. So I graduated 3 months after my first daughter was born. But the funny thing was that I had the master's degree in computer science, but it didn't magically make me feel any more deserving of the opportunity that I had been given in STEM. So I was still internally battling the feelings of not belonging. So fast forward about 6 months later, and everything started to change. I was given a 1-year assignment working with an IBM distinguished engineer to help solve complex problems that customers were having in the field. And after just 1 month of being in that role and doing what I called fire hose learning, everything started to change. So the distinguished engineer I was working with, who turned into a long-term mentor, an advocate, directly and bluntly told me that if I never felt imposter syndrome, it meant that you weren't challenging yourself. It meant that you weren't evolving as a person. And he told me that if you were challenged with a new role or a new assignment, it was because someone believed that you were strong enough to do it, and that I should lean in and embrace that growth. So this advice completely flipped the script in my mind, and I was now focused on continual growth, pushing myself to work outside of my comfort zone and to learn something new every day. So by bringing this different perspective, combining my undergraduate degree in communication, a diverse lens, and focus on technology, it enabled me to differentiate myself in an industry of folks who often think alike. So I've now worked across development, test, corporate, Watson research divisions of IBM, and I continue to take lessons from each previous role I had to build opportunities for the next one. I try to find and think about unique ways to solve the problems of today's world. So if you're an engineer or a scientist who not only can solve complex problems, but also explain those problems in ways that your business colleagues can understand, it gives you an edge on the field. Being able to bridge the worlds of technology and business has really helped me to find my niche in this industry. So this leap of faith, courage, and curiosity led me to some amazing things in a journey I never imagined would be possible. So I don't often list out accomplishments during a keynote talk, but today I made an exception because I think that part of our journey is challenging ourselves to rethink and reshape what's possible and giving ourselves permission to celebrate wins along the way. Thank you. So within IBM, my first major accomplishment was my first patent back in 2006 that I co-invented during my one-year assignment with my mentor. And my first accomplishment was the ACE's Most Promising Engineer Award back in 2007. So those first two awards are still very vivid memories. I remember how good it felt, how hard I worked to get them, and how much it inspired me to move forward. But there's one secret that I want to share with you all today about awards and recognition. So hopefully you've all heard of compounding interest. Well, I'd like to apply that same concept towards awards, opportunities, and achievements. You must work very hard for the first ones, differentiate yourself from a sea of candidates, but after that, it gets a little easier each time as you build your resume of accomplishments, as you build out your communities, and as you start with entry-level ones. If you put the time and focus, you'll start to notice that the process is easier, that your credentials are stronger, and you can even start to get recognized for awards and opportunities that you didn't even think to submit for. So over half of the accomplishments I have today are things that I didn't apply for, but things and opportunities I found out and was approached to participate in. So there's a definite need in our industry to have diverse voices, opinions, and leaders. And I encourage you all to apply for opportunities starting early in your career. It could be as simple as a guest speaker at your local library. There might be 8 people in the audience, but it's the starting point. It's an industry touch point, and it gets you building to your resume, and it's a building block for you to start moving forward. So for me, by embracing growth, challenging myself, and making it a regular practice to work outside of my comfort zone, I continue to push the limits of what I can accomplish within my community, my company, and my industry. So on my journey, the University of Arizona, the Choctaw Nation, ACES, IBM, my family, and key mentors have played an absolutely critical role in my accomplishments. Without these influences, opportunities, and support systems, I 100% would not be here today talking to you about my career in STEM. So I challenge you all to share your journeys, your lessons learned, including your struggles, and your expertise with the next generation of students and newer folks in STEM. So one of my favorite parts about working in the STEM field is opportunities and platform it's provided me to pay it forward through mentoring and give back. So I'm a passionate advocate for diversity in STEM. I regularly participate in mentoring, career fairs, school visits, scholarship review boards, recruitment events, anything focused on making sure that we have and are growing diverse talent in this field. So conferences like this are absolutely critical in bringing us all together, in providing networking and mentoring opportunities, in motivating us to continue to follow our journeys and to share those journeys with the next generation of folks in STEM, the next generation of SACNistas. So I love the quote, if you light a lamp for someone else, it will brighten your own path. And helping others get their footing in this industry, especially in the areas of big data and artificial intelligence, is of growing importance. So today, only 15% of data scientists are women. Only 5% are Hispanic, 4% are Black, and 0.5% are Native American. AI and machine learning are predicted to reshape nearly every industry in the coming decades. And when you consider that an intelligent computer is only as well-rounded as the people that teach it and the training data that it's exposed to, you quickly realize that diversity in STEM is lacking at a time that it's of increasing importance. So for Native American communities, there's an additional layer of complexity surrounding data sovereignty and governance. So many tribal governments have an understandable fear of sharing data due to past history. But there's a critical need for accurate, meaningful data, which is often used to determine things like budget requests, to allocate resources, to make healthcare advancements, and to set policy goals. But despite the promise of AI, there are valid concerns that it can perpetuate, or even in some cases amplify, biases against certain groups of people. So AI is judgment neutral on the onset, but it relies on data collected and selected by humans and training and ML algorithms that are often created by humans. So illustrated here are a few examples of unintended bias introduced by companies who had absolutely no malicious intent. So social networking companies were flagging indigenous names as not authentic. This was due to a lack of diversity in their training data sets. There was a large cloud company, and no, it wasn't IBM, that created a recruitment tool that learned to show bias against women. So it was their skewed training data from the current STEM field and employee data that showed an underrepresentation of women. So these data sets resulted in machine learning models that determined that women were suboptimal candidates and that started flagging and downgrading any resumes that mentioned things like women's soccer captain, Grace Hopper Conference, Society of Women Engineers. And instead of that project removing bias from the recruitment process, it instead amplified it. And as facial recognition software emerged, it could identify white males accurately 99% of the time, but that dropped to just 35% for dark-skinned women. Again, the main problem was lack of diversity in data and images that were used to train the facial recognition software. So after retraining models with a more diverse set, the error rates narrowed to a few percent, under 3%. So as our industry focus increases on mitigating bias and we start to see more focus on transparent and fair AI and machine learning, it's important that there is diverse representation on the boards, in the rooms where all of these decisions are made, and in the industries that are building, testing, and implementing models that will impact our future in healthcare, banking, criminal justice, and all the industries where we work and rely on for our daily routines. So with the World Cup starting in less than a month, these are images of my husband and daughters from a past World Cup, and it just felt relevant. So my closing words are, put on your game face and get ready to make an impact on the world. And the next time you're feeling uneasy with a new challenge, don't fear that you have imposter syndrome. Instead, embrace it and all the great things that it can generate. Just promise me that you'll celebrate your wins along the way, that you'll bring others on your journey, and that you'll go forward with a growth mindset. And with that, I'll end on my favorite quote: honor the past, but be the future. Yakoke. Thank you.